So what did we do? We spent a really, really long time as a department trying to work out what makes teaching ideal. So if you could pick your ideal teaching scenario with our students, what would we want? Smaller classes was definitely a popular choice, and that ability to make that bigger impact on our students and spend more time with them. We knew that we would probably see a decline in our students' mental health due to COVID and the subsequent lockdowns. And we knew that the things that worked well when we were teaching them online wasn't just this, the online teaching, although that did go very well. It was all those little extras that teachers do that we don't take credit for sometimes, which is the checking in and are you okay and what have you been up to, and have you thought about trying this or trying something else, challenging them to do that little bit more. So we really wanted to kind of hone in on that and not lose all of the extra bits that we'd done in lockdown. We also thought about what we would want students to do. So we've got our ideal teaching scenario. What do we want students to do in this ideal class? And apart from stop chatting and put your phones away when you're told, we decided we wanted them to be really confident about asking questions and put themselves out there, and particularly not be afraid to get it wrong, again and again and again, as the case may be. But we needed them there to do that. Attendance, we have found, has always been a bit of a challenge at maths. It's always behind the main college attendance, and we wanted to improve that. We wanted our students to, come along and coming to maths classes. We've always worked with our borderline students because that's always been a focus from our SLT. We want to try and get that fabled grade 4 for all of our young people. But we've recently had a change in policy at Fareham College, and we're really interested in progress. So for us, it's about students making 1 grade progress from their starting point, wherever that may be. So with that in mind, we decided to shift our focus away from the borderline students and more to our anxious students, with a view to improving their confidence and ultimately their willingness to put themselves out there and give it a try. And you'll see that that's a picture of our hub area and some of our coaches. So we've carried out significant research into maths anxiety, being really keen to prove that it is something tangible, and it is real. And it's not just an excuse from students to, shy away from a subject that they don't particularly like. It was interesting to read in a lot of papers that findings show that people are quite happy to say that they're not good at maths. People will say all the time, I'm not really a maths person, but we probably wouldn't ever turn around and say, well, I can't read. I just always think that's quite interesting that people are quite happy to say that, and it's quite socially acceptable to say that you're not good at maths. So I was quite keen to change that. Tarbetsky there talks about people viewing their maths ability as fixed. So if they study history, they think they can improve their skills, or they can get better at PE or better at English if they read more. But with maths, it seems to be that people are just like, no, I'm not good at maths, and that's the end of it. So again, wanting to change that. The second bit I've got down there is all about, students really struggle in those high stakes settings. It's that, fear of looking bad or failing, and it talks about it being debilitating in some cases, which, is crazy. Some of the other research I've looked at here, so I'm going to have to read it off because I can't remember their names. So Haynes, Mullings and Stein talked about mathematical content not necessarily being the main issue, but the environment in which it's taught in that becomes a threatening situation. I don't know about anyone here, but I always remember, the teacher picking on you, doing that directed questioning, and the room goes silent and your mind's gone blank, and, it just always makes me, remember me thinking of that in science when I was younger. That wasn't my great subject, and wanting to take that away from our students and them to have that confidence to get it wrong a bit. We also looked at mathematic avoidance and, how we want students for them not to become their go-to attitude. And delivery styles and environments we think can be quite inhibiting. So we wanted to look at that as well. So hopefully I've convinced you maths anxiety is real. What did we do about it? So we identified 6 network colleges in our local region. We're really lucky, they're very up for a challenge. And we worked with Highbury College, Havant and South Downs, Sparsholt, Southampton City, Isle of Wight and St Vincent's College. And they were all able to identify a coach or somebody that we could upskill to a coach in their setting. Once we'd identified who our coaches were, they all attended some growth mindset CPD, and then they actually underwent some coaching themselves, which I think they all found very valuable, and it gave them a real idea about what it was like to be on that other side and really understand our students' experience. So we started with giving all students studying Maths GCSE a questionnaire based around the Mars. And what we wanted to do was work with students that particularly had maths anxiety, but what we found was that not many of them did have genuine maths anxiety. It was more general anxiety. So what we decided to do was shift our focus a little bit and just work with any anxious students. So once we'd identified those students in scope, they had an extra hour delivered a week on top of their timetabled maths classes. And the coaching worked on developing a growth mindset as well as those skills gaps. And it was very much student-led. So, you know, if a student felt particularly anxious about fractions, for example, that was where the work would focus. And that could be quite fluid from one coaching session to the next. So our research methods were, we did a mixture of qualitative and quantitative research. We did questionnaires with the students. We did Likert scale questions, 1 to 6, and they did that at 3 points in the coaching, so beginning, middle and end. We felt that would be the best way for us to sort of see progress over time. And then I've conducted interviews with coaches and teachers at the end of the period of action research. So we approximately had 150 students engaging across the time frame, which we were quite happy with. We'd had these grand plans for at least double that, but unfortunately COVID impacted. We were just really grateful that the colleges in our region still wanted to engage, so I can live with 150. Maybe one day we'll get that 500, but that's where we're at. And our results, so we were thrilled with these. I've just put some small extracts there as to how students reported. The key one for me was, and not actually the biggest leap in percentage, but when we asked students how they felt about exams, only 9% responded with a positive 4 to 6 response on the Likert scale at the beginning, but went up to 34% by the end. And I think, for students that are highly anxious about maths or highly anxious generally, I thought that was really massive. Also, students' participation was really good.
What the hell those measures are.
Their confidence really improved, and how they felt about maths overall was really great as well. I've just put a couple of little quotes down the bottom that came from the students. Problem solving skills improved. Sorry, that came from the lecturers. Problem solving improved, can-do attitude, and a lot of the students didn't feel scared. And then the one that really gets me is it helped me stay motivated and have more hope. I just thought that was just so lovely. And students themselves have identified that they're much more focused. So wider than this, we've also noticed that our attendance improved to 82% for maths, which we were really happy with, and so were my SLT. So that was a welcome bonus. And students absolutely loved the coaching. We've had a waiting list all year. So with that in mind, our SLT have actually decided to invest in that for us at Fareham College. And we have 2 coaches now that are outside of the projects that have become permanent members of staff for us, one for maths and one for English. So we're really, really thrilled that we can offer that to our students. And I'm really hopeful for my TAG results that will show that our grade 4s or our 1 grade progress has improved, but obviously it's too early to say with that. But the resilience and change in attitude, absolutely, we feel is something to celebrate with our students. So my recommendations then, comment at the top there from one of our students, please don't stop the maths coaching. I used this to try and get round our principal, and it worked. So that was really good. And our question was all around just investigating whether the models of coaching can improve progression and achievement, and ultimately by reducing that anxiety, and we really feel that it did. Like Plymouth spoke about earlier about using staff in-house, we did that too, and we found that it was really beneficial. We had some amazing LSAs that enjoyed maths and wanted to take that a bit further. So we did some work to upskill our LSAs and support staff, and feel that that was really beneficial. What we want to be able to do is adopt a coaching approach in all of our interactions with students. So not just in coaching situations, but when we're supporting them, when we're teaching them, and try and challenge them a bit more to adopt that growth mindset. We did do one-to-ones, but we also did small group interventions too, which allowed us to get a much greater reach with our students. And that's something we'll be taking forward. And the hub area. So there was a picture of it at the beginning. That was really great because what it became known in the college was the place you go to if you want help with maths. So we did get a lot of drop in. We had people turning up just to see if someone could help them with a bit of homework, or even just grabbing revision resources. So I definitely would recommend that if you can. I know rooms are difficult to get hold of, but if you can squirrel something away, then it's worked very well for us. And then that robust in-year assessment plan that allowed us to make our interventions quite timely and almost nip in the bud some of that anxiety with some of our students. So one example springs to mind. There was a young lady that had a particularly tough weekend, started to have a little bit of a meltdown in the maths class. The lecturer emailed the coach at the end of the lesson. The coach was able to nip down, grab that student, make a arrangement for a one-off update or support session, and it just kind of nips it in the bud and allowed that student to kind of access something. So that was really good for us. And my key thing was involving parents and guardians. We wrote to them at the beginning and really sold it that how lucky the student was to have this opportunity, really made a big thing about the waiting list, and it really got parents on board. And I think that helped a lot with the attendance to the coaching sessions too. We didn't have a lot of drop off, so I kind of credit that as one of the things that helped. And that's it.